Everyone we see is a reflection of us.
I want to expand on how the governments pass bills. We already know from part one that they try to create hysteria amongst the people, to generate mass thought conscious, to divert people's focus and attention onto a specific subject. The art of deception is very powerful. So if the people are focused over here, they're not realizing what's going on, or because the attention is on the halftime Super Bowl or the latest fire, or who won the Biggest Loser, or whatever it might be in the social trends or current economic crisis. Now, the more people focused on that means that when they present a new bill that might have negative or contradictory humane ideals, the people's focus is on something else. So it's easier to slip it past without the public outcry or uproar. Or they'll create a cataclysmic event to then introduce the new bill through Parliament, and because everyone's so saddened, they think it's a good idea without reading the fine print. I mean, this is what they did with COVID for emergency powers. You create the problem, you create the solution. If people can't see that Microsoft created the viruses to then sell you the antivirus to make twice as much money. It's the same reason why the cigarette companies create nicotine. They get you addicted onto the problem, and then they sell you a solution while you're still being addicted to the problem. And they make twice as much money from you. The same goes with the government, but just on a different scale. So that's another aspect of creating a problem to then create the solution, and then within the solution is the underlying means of what they actually really want to do under the guise of what they've told you they're going to do. So how do they get it past the opposition? We already know they're getting it past the people by hoodwinking them into believing one thing but saying another. So what about the opposition? Well, what is their role? Well, as many people put it, the left and the right belong to the same bird. The left wing and the right wing are the exact same bird. Well, why is that? Why is it just two major political parties? Why can't the other one stand up? Well, they just don't have the numbers. They work that out. So, what good is an opposition if they can't actually oppose anything? Well, that's a damn fine question. You see, there are honest people in politics. There are people trying to do a good thing, but few and far between. Even in the opposition, most of them are playing their part. They're acting as if they are for the people, or they're supporting the people as a guise to show you that they want to be in power, so you continuously support the two major parties. This has been the way it's been for quite a long time in all countries. And you got to ask yourself, are there two major parties in all countries? Why? Surely one government in one country is slightly different to another government in another country. So ask yourself this question: does your parliament have the same left and right wing factions? They might call it something different. It might be Labour and Liberal, or Democrats and whoever it might be. So why is that the same? Why do you always have two sides playing the same game? Let me ask you a question. If you had two sports teams that played the exact same team over and over again, would they not get tired? Would they not get bored? So on one side, one team has to try something different, maybe bring in some new players to make the game a little bit different. But ultimately, it's the same outcome either way. So they, again, try to manipulate the public by showing you that the opposition will do a better job. When ultimately, they're playing the same game as the current parliament or government in power. They are in it for the money, they are in it for themselves, and they have an overruling power. They put it under the guise of, crises. And COVID's no different. Then they try to take everything away from you. So you look at a time where in Australian Parliament, they ring the bells. And in the American one, I think they call for a vote, or can't remember the name. It's a divide. Now, if you have people in Parliament during this so-called divide or division, where they count the votes, the chamber or the Parliament area remains open for a set period of time, and then they lock the doors. And whoever's in the chamber at the time can cast their vote against the new bill passing through, whether it's lower house or upper house. So half of the current government who it doesn't relate to are not in there. So if there is a divide and they call for a vote, they then come back into the chamber and outvote the opposition. So let's say it's 35-5. But at the time, there might have only been 10 people in there. Or maybe people on the other side decided to vote for something else because they have a faction or whatever it is to the current government. They were promised something. So, and then after it's called and the vote is taken, they will go away and sit back in their sub areas watching TV, twiddling their thumbs. Now let me ask you a question. Do you think that's fair? How many of you have meetings at your workplace where you have something to say, but according to the schedule, you're last to say it? So you have to sit through the entire thing to say your piece. But you do so. If you're not there at the start of the meeting and you come in late, you've missed all of that information because it wasn't relevant. But how does that make you look to your fellow workers? So we're there on time. We have to sit through all of it just to cast our vote. If we miss a voting day or an election day, they want to charge us money. They want to fine us. So if I can't be bothered voting for the current politician that should be in power, or I can't make it for some reason, they will fine me. They will fine us. They will charge us money because we've enrolled to vote, but we chose not to, because we didn't want to sit through it. So if a politician doesn't make the divide because they missed it, they don't get charged. Should they be charged money for missing their vote? Possibly. Well, we are. What happens to those politicians that don't listen through all of that? They're just there to make up the numbers. Is that not an abuse of power? That's showing you that there is no justice in a bill when you can use your strength in numbers to send through any bill you want, even if it's ludicrous, even if it's at the detriment to humankind. You can make any bill pass through numbers, but you won't make your fellow colleagues sit through all the nonsense. They're just there to pass a bill. So I don't agree with that. If they have to cast their vote, I'm in favor of having every single politician sit there through the entire meeting, through the entire curriculum of politics to cast their vote. If they do not sit there at the start of the meeting, their vote should be null and void. This means that every politician must sit through the entirety of the event to cast their vote, and not just be heavy-handed. Regardless of their position or stature, they should not be allowed that privilege. That is a misuse of power, amongst other things. And then for a politician or a ruling state, whatever it is, to pass through any bill unopposed because of the need of a resurgence of power or crisis or economics or health or any of this without oversight is ridiculous. Without critical planning or risk management, all for the sake of what? An overarching or overreaching government to introduce something that is against the people, to try to manipulate the people to vote for another thing. And then when your accreditation and your reliability is gone, you think nothing's changed and you move on, but really you've tarnished your reputation. So for the people to understand how do they pass such ridiculous laws, well, there are many factors. But the ones for the people is deception. Watch what the left is doing while I do everything with my right. Pay attention to the entertainment or the crises from whether it's Mother Nature or supposed Mother Nature events or Taylor Swift's new concert, whatever it might be that diverts people's attention away to watch something else. There's usually always something on at the time. And then if you sit down and actually watch what politics is, you realize that there is no democracy. There is no fairness in politics. It's do what we want, and if we're in power, we'll do it anyway, but we're not the ones running the show. There are people who are above us. And then somehow they get paid hundreds and thousands of dollars to do all of this work when they're not actually doing anything. The people of this earth are doing it all. And no matter what happens or what we do, we're the ones always paying the bills. But we have the strength in number. And if you think about that, they are one faction and we are the other. And we have the strength in numbers, but all of our people are in that back room, waiting for the divide between the government and the people. And if all the people just decided to come back into the chamber and show their true worth, then we can be the majority ruling class and take back what is ours. Half of these bills, no matter what country you're in, they are ridiculous and could be scrapped. I, for one, would personally sit down from law number 1 or bill number 1, go through them all, throw out the ones that are unnecessary, keep the ones that work or that are beneficial to humanity or safety or culture. A rewriting of not history, but the way that things can work peacefully. We can have treaties amongst native people and native titles where it can work, but not to sell land to the highest bidder, to another country or a ruling elite, no. To protect the sacred sites and in Australia, Uluru and You have all the places, Machu Picchu, Egypt, you have Stonehenge, and all of the ley line areas. If you don't know what ley line areas are, have a look at them. Don't think for a second that your governments don't know this about all of the land. Here in Australia, they can't do anything until they own the land. This is what the Voice to Parliament is all about. As soon as you have native title and natives on a bill, they can sell the land right under you. Again, you must pay attention to what is in the small fine print, not what is in the newspapers. So how do they get bills passed unopposed? It's very simple. We let them. And they know that. So what will you let get through this time? With peace and love and a cup of tea.